Meredith Mills-Merritt. Today is exciting because not only is it our first episode, but I get to interview a very dear friend of mine, Gabriela, aka Gabby, or Mrs. Ryan Scott Graham.
Yes.
Gabby is a creative director and social strategist, formerly at Unilever Prestige, which is where we met. She's worked with brands like Vegamore and is the creative behind the original South Side, my brand, who really helped bring this whole world to life. So the lay of the land here at the original Yappy Hour is pretty simple. We're diving into the people and the moments behind your favorite brands, strategies, and creators. So often we only see C-suite executives or founders get featured or spoken about, but the real kingsmakers and architects often lay behind the scenes. So this podcast highlights everything and everyone in between, focusing on the builders behind it all, right at the intersection of strategy and maybe just a little bit of oversharing. So with that, we can hop right in. Gabby, welcome.
Yay! I'm so happy to be here.
This is so much fun. And so because this is the first episode, I'll be explaining a lot of the segments that we do. And we like to kick each episode off with the beverage of the week, where our featured guest gets to tell me what to drink, which is super fun. So Gabby, what are we drinking?
We are drinking, I'll be honest, I've already been drinking, but we've been drinking a strawberry matcha with whole milk. Ugh, taste it.
Oh my God, this is nuts.
Isn't that so good? Isn't that summer in a cup?
I already love that we're talking whole milk, down with Big Nut. So when you sent me this order, I was so excited because not only do I love a matcha, but a whole milk matcha. So we're already on the same page. So tell me, why are we drinking this? Is this like a comfort choice? Is this your go-to kind of like middle of the day pick me up? Like, walk me through why you chose this beverage specifically.
Okay, so I actually stole it from a friend.
Perfect.
We went on a walk and she ordered it and I was like, "Oh, that's mine now." Now it's just like a little pick me up. I live next to one. It's just like yummy. It's beautiful as you can see.
It's actually so incredibly good that I have dribbled it all over my face. So you said you stole this from a friend. When exactly did it become your go-to?
I want to say like 2 years ago. Like if Alfred was going out of business, I would be able to fund it. Just based off how often I get this.
And for those of you who do not live in Los Angeles or are not familiar with Alfred, Gabby, how would you describe Alfred?
Alfred is the handshake introductory coffee shop of anybody moving here. Well, first off, it's so 2016 with their but first coffee slogan. And secondly, I love that they never changed. They're like, we're living in the Tumblr past and we're going to stay that way.
100%, and that's honestly how I probably would have described it as well. I loved Alfred when I moved here in 2019, so I was even a little
Yes.
late to the curve, but I do feel like the but first coffee movement really impacted millennials, myself included. So I think we all owe Alfred a big fat thank you, especially for this strawberry matcha. We're starting off really strong. So, okay, now on to part one. This is where we're going to dive into your original story, see what I did there. So my first question for you is, what in your upbringing or early life would you say shaped your taste the most?
Ooh, okay. Well, I came from Costa Rica, and I feel like not only did my culture shape my eye, but what wasn't in my culture shaped my eye. So I think I just became naturally more curious because I was living a certain way at home. And then, middle America, Wisconsin, I was seeing other things. So I feel like I always just kind of had it in me. I do think that taste can build, but I think sometimes you just have it.
And in that kind of same vein, at what point did you really realize that you weren't just creative and that you could actually shape and design how people see, touch, feel, and interact with brands?
So I joined Dermalogica, where I met you, through a cold email that I got from our old, wait, what's Carly?
Just our old, amazing, incredible, fearless leader. Carly, if
Yeah,
you're listening, I love you.
exactly, exactly. I got a cold email from her and she was like, "We like you." And I wasn't looking for a job. This was like peak COVID. I think that having somebody look at my Instagram, like my vision and my vibe, even outside of anything that I was doing gave me the confidence to try, even if I hadn't done anything like that before. I feel like that kind of gave me the go ahead to be creative, and not just creative, but like actually put it to the test.
Which is amazing because sometimes all it takes is one person, and that's enough
Completely.
for you to be like, wait a second, there really is something here. So I think that's fantastic because since you and I met, I feel like we've been able to watch each other's careers over the last 7 years, which is
Yeah.
crazy, by the way. Watching you move into the direction where you are now has been amazing, and I am just grateful that you're still talking to me. So
I love you. I love you so much.
So, last question for this part is, was there ever a moment where you actually almost didn't pursue this path? And if so, walk us through it.
You know that analogy about the fig tree? Have you heard of this?
No, no, what is it?
It's this analogy that we have a fig tree in front of us and we get to pick whatever fig is on the tree. But those figs represent whether you're going to be a model, actress, lawyer, whatever. And we kind of have to just pick one. And I think that, like, if I wasn't doing this, I would be doing something creative. But my fig tree has always been very big, and I've never really known what I wanted to do in life. And I think this is something that I just kind of fell into. I think that if I wasn't doing this, I would still be creative. And there's definitely a world where I wouldn't be doing this, but thank God I am.
I agree. Well, and I did just look it up really quickly. So, for those listening, this fig tree analogy is from Sylvia Plath's The
Yes.
Bell Jar and represents the paralysis of choice in early adulthood, which is amazing. And I'm going to look into that. But I think that's really fair. You have so many things that can go so many different ways. And if you don't know, you'll never know. So I'm glad that this is how it ended up working out for you because not only would I say you're naturally talented, but you're very resourceful. You're very able to, take control of your surroundings, which I think is also important because, as we both know, in kind of more independent contractor, creative leaning roles, your destiny is your own. So, moving into part two, we talk about money, power, decisions, the works. So, number one, what is something you think most brands obsess over that doesn't really matter?
Ooh, I think that brands obsess over following a lot in a way where you could be a brand with a ton of followers that doesn't necessarily equal engagement. I think it used to equal engagement. Now, there's accounts that have over 1 million followers and have 200 likes. Like, their content isn't connecting with their audience. So I feel like sometimes it's this thing where it's like virality and, whatever trend is happening at the moment. And I think that, that's not the focus. That shouldn't be the focus.
Okay, so when you're building a brand world, what is the first thing that you look for? Is it emotion? Is it the audience that you're going after? Or is it some sort of brand messaging?
Yeah, I definitely like to think as the target audience. So a lot of the time when I'm working with a founder, I'll ask them a bunch of questions like, what do you want it to feel like? Even if you don't have a vision of it, what do you want it to feel like? What do you want to portray? What does your ideal customer look like? And then from there, I usually take it to a Pinterest, or I'll go to like old magazines and I'll just start building from there. And that vision changes maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
I never like my first draft of anything. I build as I go, but I always have some sort of foundation of what the feeling should invoke when it comes to the brand.
And for those of you listening, I came to Gabby for the creation of the original South Side with probably the least baked, most vague image in my head. And she created the entire world that you see before you. So when you go to our Instagram, which is just Drink Southsides, when you go to our website, you'll see all of these wonderful assets. I told her, picture the second season of the original Gossip Girl, where they're a little less awkward and they're still very aspirational in nature, but balancing that with the nostalgia of a drink that comes from the early 1900s. And when I tell you that from the beginning of the process all the way to the end, and the photo shoots and the execution and the post production, it was so seamless. So you can quite literally come to this woman with anything, and it's been amazing to see what she creates after that. So I just absolutely
So
love it.
nice.
No, I'm serious. Like, people don't understand, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to start this podcast, is People don't really understand the work and time associated and what goes into putting their favorite brands on shelf. A lot of that is creative, and you can speak to that as part of a social media manager in those days where, even just feeding TikTok and feeding Instagram requires so much content
Yeah.
that it's crazy. So, well done. Oh,
Well, I also want to add, like, I feel like the connection that you and I have, where we've worked together for several years and knowing each other's way of working and that creativity and kind of like having just great communication throughout the entire process only made that process so much easier. So, like, that's another thing. Like, you have to listen to your team and you have to kind of know what the person wants and doesn't like and what they want to stray from and just have that friendship overall, I feel like really helped us.
I agree. I also think you and I having a proper understanding of each other's roles in such a large environment, and even moving from, because you and I worked together across 3 or 4 different brands, and we were either one of us was full time or one of us was consulting or the other way around because of that relationship. And every so often you will find people that you are able to work with like that, and I just think it's super special. But I remember the meetings that we would sit in and people would be like, well, can't you just make this go viral? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, Gabby's gonna hate this.
Yes, I did. My eye was twitching.
Yeah, sure. Let me just hit the viral button. That's
Done.
exactly how TikTok works. Okay. What is one buzzword that instantly tells you if a brand or a person is faking it?
Honestly, anything virality. Like anytime that I'm talking to somebody and they're like, we need somebody who's like social media obsessed. And it's like, babe, the algorithm is crazy. We live in such an oversaturated market. Even if you were the best product ever, ever, ever to exist, you can't just expect virality. Like to me, I feel like that's when I always like butt heads with a founder or somebody who's making something because I'm just like, your standards are so impossible. You got to come back down to earth, girl.
I feel like, the right at the beginning of COVID, when random people were going so incredibly viral, that was almost part of the allure because you had so many
Like,
people and brands sign up for this platform that at the time, it's hard to imagine 2019, early 2020, that TikTok was like relatively new to the scene when it's, a behemoth right now.
yeah.
That was part of the allure. You signed up, you didn't know if you went viral or not, and if you did, great, you sold 3 months worth of product in 24 hours. But
Yes.
outside of that, it was really just like a creative exploratory process. So I do think
It
it is
was,
crazy.
it was so much easier to go viral back then because the way an algorithm works is, it wants more users. So the more eyes that you're getting on your content, the more you want to use the app. Same thing with Reels that's kind of happening right now. You get more eyes on Reels because they want you to use it more. So I think that people kind of, when I grew like the Germ account and it reached like 100,000 or whatever, it almost seemed like, well, duh, that was going to happen because you're just feeding the algorithm. Like now, maybe not because it's just an oversaturated platform.
All right, we'll move on to part 3, which we call the messy middle, which is where we discuss the messes that can and do surround us all, no matter what you do. So, when do you walk away or even just outright, like, say no to a person or a project?
So I used to be worse at this. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I think that I used to not have boundaries in my work a lot of the time. And I think now I'm kind of like the opposite, where I will walk away and be like a harsh no. Because if the relationship between me and the person I'm working with isn't going well, we're probably not going to make something that we both feel very proud of. And I'd rather give them a chance to actually find somebody that they align with and me a chance to, you know, do what I do best. I wouldn't like ask somebody who's a scientist if I can do their labs.
Right.
It it sometimes is hard when, somebody's micromanaging you or like they don't really know what they want, but they have a lot of opinions. Those kinds of clients I feel lucky and fortunate enough to walk away from because I can in my career, but I feel like at the start of my career, oh, I was like just taking it on the chin and just being like, yeah, okay, I can fix this or whatever. You kind of have to do that.
And kind of another similar-ish question is, we both have worked for ourselves, small startups, big organizations. How did you deal with ego and the associated corporate nonsense when working at some of these more rigid, big organizations?
Again, it's an age thing, and I feel like it's a confidence thing. There are times when people with ego would try and tell me something or, push back on something that I knew was right or whatever. And I think it just depends on what battle you want to take. Like I I'm naturally very confrontational, not in a like a aggressive way, but in like a no, that's not like I love justice.
Yes.
I love telling somebody how it is. And
100%.
I feel like in corporate, I had to kind of learn when to do that and when to just like complain to your friend on Slack. I feel like you
Yeah.
can't fight everything.
No. Sometimes you really do have to drop the sword, especially if there's any sort of like hierarchy involved. And I feel like I see that a lot too with some of my good friends who are still in kind of similarly organized environments. And it's just so funny that you and I have a little bit of a different lens because we've been able to step away from it.
Yeah.
But even when I talk to my husband or people in his graduate school program, it still exists, and it's almost like an SNL skit with how predictable it is. You'd think it wouldn't be, but it still is. So
Yes, and it's crazy because those people started, maybe as interns in some way or another, or like at the lowest
right,
part of the totem pole. So you would think that they would behave in a way that, maybe they understand as well, but that's never the case.
you'd think. So how what would you say? What version of you were you at Unilever or some of these other large brands that you've consulted on versus right now?
Um, what version of me is different, or how have I expanded and changed?
Right.
Um, Definitely more confident. I definitely I think sometimes when you're a creative or when you're building something like yourself, you 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 lean more to second guessing yourself. And I think that I've learned to kind of quiet that voice down and just trust my instinct. And, that's a hard thing to do when you are constantly corporate because you have like nine people to run something by in corporate, whereas like you're building something for yourself, you kind of have to take the lead. So I think confidence is number one. And then second, I think I I charge what I think I deserve. Like I think with clients, I feel like more, I'm not underselling myself how I used to be.
I think that's amazing. And again, it's part of the natural learning curve when
Yeah.
you go out on your own and you say, I think I can charge this because my value is X, Y, and Z. And then all it takes are a few clients to be like, oh, you're right. Maybe I could even charge more. Or what would I do for this speaking engagement? Or this, that, or the other. So I think that's great. And then the last question for this part is what is something about the creative industry that people don't say out loud?
Hmm. I think to an extent, this might be a hot take. I do feel like a lot of people are kind of recycling things and just, it feels almost like right now, a lot of people are just doing the same thing over and over and maybe like copy paste type of vibe, whether it's like, a makeup brand or a clothing brand or whatever. I see a lot of campaigns that feel safe,
Yeah.
and I don't want safe anymore. I want cool. I want something that captures my attention, and I want something that pulls me in a way that like a 90s ad would, and I feel like that's something that I feel very proud of with Southsides because I do feel like we push in a different way, and comparatively to a lot of alcohol brands that I've seen or worked with, it's creative.
Yep.
It's not safe, and I love that.
I think too, it has never been easier to build a brand with Canva and AI and some
Completely.
of these resources, but that doesn't mean that it's going to have soul or be interesting or have any ounce of longevity. And so I think that's where people like yourself come in and give such a defined point of view that can really push people, founders, larger teams and organizations in the right direction, because if you let the same platform give you design ideas, They might overlap with some other brands. And
Exactly.
again, I am no expert, but I do know that the conversation around, now's a great time to start a brand versus any other time because of the access to those resources. It doesn't go unnoticed that they all kind of look like they're picking up on
Yeah.
one another. So,
Yeah, that's a great point about like just the authenticity and the human aspect of it, because I feel like that's something that gets overlooked and more brands should focus on that.
our last part is moving into identity and ego because let's face it, we've all got one.
Yeah.
First question for you is what do you want more credit for that you don't get?
Ooh, um, I think as a woman, as a creative, I sometimes have struggled with getting actual credit. Like I've done like music videos or, even in Unilever, like I was almost always fighting for some sort of credit. I think what I want more credit for is for thinking outside the box. I think sometimes it's expected of me because I'm just Gabby, and I think I want more of oh, that's very Gabby. That's something that I would really enjoy to hear because I do think I have a certain taste that I've cultivated and I want credit for it.
And that's fair because you do have good taste, and that is not a compliment I give out often. So it's more than fair. Number two, what are you still insecure about creatively?
It's hard to show yourself. Like anything that you make, whether, I mean, my husband is a musician and he still goes through this. It's a thing of like when you're making something, it's yours, and then when you show it to the world, it's theirs. And that can be a tough thing to kind of make sense of because it was yours for so long and then you bring it out and then you're basically allowing people to have an opinion of it. And I think sometimes that's very scary because then sometimes my head goes, oh, well, I guess I could tweak this. But I think staying true to your own opinion, staying true to your originality is something sometimes that I get scared of because I don't want outside noise to change that.
That is an amazing piece of insight where for creatives like yourself and your husband, you have it as such a special project for so long and you're so close to it. And then to your point, someone who is hearing it or seeing it or just observing it for 15 seconds is allowed to have as much of an opinion as someone
Yeah.
who's as close to it as you are, or even people adjacent to you, friends and family. So I do feel that way a little bit about Southsides. It's kind of like you open up yourself to criticism, especially when you build out loud. And so in your situation, it's just, you never know what you're going to get. So I think that's super fair.
You never know.
When did you start trusting your own opinion more than other people's?
I think it's not a thing that comes naturally to people. I think it's a muscle you have to constantly work at. And I always say this, take your words from who they come from. If
Mm-hmm.
I am building something within the alcohol space like you, I'm coming to you. I'm not coming to, the Alfred barista. We're coming to her for this, for the recipe for this. You know what I mean? Like take your words from who they come from in the way that like if you're, dogging on something I'm making, well, let me think about it. Like, are you my customer that I want? Are you somebody I respect? Do I even know you? So a lot of the time those questions come into my head when I'm thinking of like criticism and commentary from the peanut gallery.
I was once told that this is just like in a personal, vein, that you should not take advice or criticism from someone whose life you wouldn't want to live.
Yes.
And I think that's super fair across the board. But it doesn't mean that we're not social animals programmed to want to be accepted. And so sometimes it's easier than others to ignore it. Other times, if it's, something really big or someone that you kind of respect and they don't necessarily have the reaction that you're going for, it can be pretty tough. But, you're a tough cookie. So,
Yeah, and I feel like if you have like a thought or an idea to bring to life, like you might as well just try it because if you don't, you're going to regret not doing it. So you might as well try it and fail than just like go with somebody else's idea. I feel like that's my motto.
I love it. Next question is, what is something that you believed about good work back then that you have completely changed your mind on?
That's a good question. What's something I believed about good work that I've changed my mind on? I think a lot of the time in corporate you get a lot of busy work.
Hmm.
Nothing that like truly matters. And Meredith, you taught me this. Like you always when we were at Unilever reminded me that we're not like heart surgeons and that like we're in marketing, like
Right.
it's very cool. We loved our jobs, but at the end of the day, we're in marketing and we're not saving lives. And I think that like when I was at Unilever, it was a lot of work that, yeah, of course I was like proud of, but I don't know if my heart was really into it. I think now good work to me means things that I feel passionate about and things that feel like they have a life, not just a deliverable that I have to meet.
More than fair. And I say that to everyone. So if you're listening and you do not work in an operating room, it more than likely applies to you. I found such a common theme in my career in consumer goods that we all thought we were changing the world, and we might be changing someone's world for a little bit with a product that they really love or becoming someone's new favorite thing, which is great and exciting. And it's why I've stayed in the industry. But if you have a tough day, or if your boss is breathing down your neck, or if you have been given a workload that feels completely unmanageable, you need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, yeah, today wasn't my favorite day, but I am not a heart surgeon and I did not drop the heart on the floor. Like things
Yeah.
could be so much worse. And it sounds silly, but when you put it into perspective like that, I do think it's really helpful, and it just kind of level sets the situation that it's like, okay, my PowerPoint on granola bars didn't go the way that I wanted it to, so I'll be okay, but we'll take it, one step at a time.
When I was 22, what you just reminded me of this story. I was working for a brand that was launching in Sephora, and I was very junior in my career. And I was driving to the office after a week of like the CEO texting me at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., like millions of voice memos. She was building something, but I think she didn't realize that like I was just like working hourly and like that maybe I didn't care as much as she did. I'm 22,
Right.
it's so different. And I remember I was driving to the office and I almost crashed my car because she was texting me like it was an emergency. And Meredith, it was like something about like a Photoshop thing. Like it was something so normal. And I remember I almost crashed my car and I remember being like, oh, I'm quitting. Like
I'm done. I'm out.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was going to continue in that way, and you have to kind of know when to back out and when to like your stress takes that on. I remember I was like losing hair, or I'd get like cystic acne at a job and I'd be like, this is not good for me.
No. And that's when I think we should all reevaluate our situation and what we're doing, because I can remember I was having legitimate panic attacks, and I was being threatened via email by people that I worked for, and having to, make them a PDF and send them to HR, and you're like, is this worth it? Like, is it really what I want to be doing? That's when it's a hard no, is when your, personal health or safety are impacted. But I do
Yeah.
realize that that is a privileged thing to say, because we do have the luxury of choice. But I also think it's always important to bring attention to, because you never know what people are going through. That's why we
Absolutely.
call it identity, ego, and the messy middle. So,
And that
um,
was messy.
no, literally. But honestly, this is the perfect segue, because enough of the hard stuff. The last segment that we have is called Sip or Spill, which I'm so excited. And so I'm here with my South Side, just like Gabby. Yay. And for those of you who don't know, I am the founder of said cocktail that I am holding, the original South Side, and I will be drinking this for my beverage and forcing, or actually say encouraging, Gabby to drink it
True, I love this.
for hers as well. I'm going to open it on the microphone for a little ASMR moment.
Oh,
And
that was really good.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
By the way, I keep these stocked in my house, even if it's like, a friend's brand. Me and my husband love these. Look at this can. Like, I always see this and I'm like, she crushed. She crushed.
That like means the world to me because again, Gabby and Ryan are like the creative powerhouse that I wish I was. So with that, this is our rapid fire segment. And if you don't want to answer, you can take a sip. I'll be sipping right here with you. So first and foremost, you are one of the coolest people that I know. So I obviously have to ask to further make it about myself. What was your first impression of me?
There, okay. I met you. I met you what, like 8 years,
Which is crazy, by the way.
years
Yeah.
ago? Yeah. Oh, I remember, Meredith, I was intimidated by you. I was completely like, first off, you were the first person on the team to like be sweet to me and reach out and say, hey, so happy to have you on the team and whatnot. But I was like intimidated by you because you knew terms and you had this confidence to yourself that I didn't yet. Like, I'm like, I feel like sometimes I'm like cosplaying knowing stuff and you
Same.
no, but you play it so well. And I remember being in a meeting being like, what the hell's a KPI? First and foremost. And like, nodding on the meeting being like, yeah, yeah, KPIs. Like,
Yeah, yeah, KPIs.
and you've always been so confident and poised. And I think my first impression of you was I was intimidated by your intelligence and also how you carried yourself.
Oh, okay. That went one way, and I didn't think it was gonna go that way. So that was like so nice. I remember when Carly told us that you were joining the team. I looked you up on LinkedIn, and I think your LinkedIn picture is the same today as it was then. And I was like, and you were like from Los Angeles, and I was like, oh, fuck, this girl's cool. Like, oh man, like this is gonna be awesome. Because
Right, I love that.
I had like just moved from Dallas. I was new to the city. I was new to the team, and it was amazing. And so I do appreciate that. But my next question for you is name a brand that you think is all aesthetics and no substance or is like severely overrated.
Okay, I am gonna sip, but I'm gonna say too because I just want to.
Cheers.
That's so yummy. It's insane. A brand that's overrated to me, I think. Ooh. You know what? I'm gonna say, what's that one skincare brand that's like the pink brand? It's like oh, Glow Recipe. Oh, bless them.
Oh, they really, yeah.
Bless them.
They had a
And
good era. They had
had
a
a good era.
they had a good run.
They haven't matured or they haven't done anything that I think a brand to their level should do. I think that a brand that like just like stays where they were like maybe even like 6 years ago, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, it like depends on if you're doing it on purpose or if you've
Yes.
actually just like completely fallen off. And I feel like, again, this goes back to our conversation on virality. It's a slippery slope because when you go super viral, people have a lot of expectations of you. Okay, this one's a fun one. Describe your nightmare client, but in the style of the comment section of a Reddit influencer snark thread.
Oh, that's so funny. My nightmare client is honestly probably like this woman is the most insecure,
Yes.
most
Wretched.
nasty, yes, rigid, and me getting pissed, and uncreative woman there has ever been. Do not
Oh,
let her into Soho House.
do not let her set foot in the Malibu Soho house ever. Ever. Amazing. I completely agree with that, and I would upvote that. So, just so you know. And then the last question is, did you ever secretly, I feel like we outwardly, but did you ever secretly judge the work that we were putting out when we worked together at any of the brands? And if you know us, you know, we'll keep it at that. I'm like, I don't think I signed a non-disparagement agreement, but we'll just
I
leave
did.
it. You didn't.
Of course. I feel like Slack was like ripping back in the day. Like I'm sure you feel this way too. Like when you have an idea and then there's too many cooks in the kitchen and you're like, this is like nothing like we
Right.
said it would be. I mean, I'm kind of like judgmental, unfortunately. So I
I'm
definitely,
extremely judgmental, fortunately. So I think
yeah,
it makes us stronger at who we are. And so,
I agree.
in closing, we like to leave with a few of the same questions for all of our guests, and I can't wait to hear your answers to them. The first is, who is your dream, living or dead, happy hour guest?
Ooh. Um, I'm gonna say, oh, I'm such a John F. Kennedy fan, unfortunately, maybe hot take, but I'm like,
That shocks me coming from you, but I love the answer.
I
So,
have I have like Meredith, I have like so much memorabilia of JFK. It's insane. Don't get me started. I love the
incredible.
Kennedys.
Okay. That was not on my bingo card for today. So, next question is, what is your favorite bar snack or like cocktail menu hors d'oeuvre?
Ooh, I love, I mean, like I'm such a peckish girl. I love
Mm-hmm.
like a nut. I love like a
Oh,
fry,
a warm nut, a good
a
fry.
warm
Yes.
nut. Come on.
Yes. Yes.
Olives. I'm like such
Oh,
a that kind of
easy.
girl.
Yeah, like my favorite is when you get that like little silver trio dish and it's got the olives, the potato chips, and the nuts. And
Girl.
like this was included with my far too expensive martini. I'm gonna leave here and I'm not gonna feel my feet, and this is my dinner.
Yes,
So I
that's
think
girl dinner.
that is the true original girl dinner. Move over Caesar salad and fries. That's like actually way too much of a meal. It's two martinis and the bar nuts.
Yes.
Um, absolutely. Okay. Finish this sentence. I am happiest when.
I'm happiest when, honestly, kind of hallmarky, but when I'm being like authentically myself. Like I can tell when I'm in my element and I feel my happiest when I'm like expressing that to the full extent because I'm more of a recluse than I think people realize. So I think when I'm like that, I mean, you wouldn't know because I feel so comfortable with you, but like usually I am. So I'm happiest when I'm being authentically myself.
I love that. No, I feel the same way, and I've just started to embrace the black cat era of my life. And I think we're both married to golden retrievers, so it's a little difficult to draw those boundaries sometimes because you're like, absolutely not. But we live our truths. And then,
Yeah.
okay, the last question for you will end is, give us your current sweet and sour. So think like rose and thorn.
My current sweet and sour, my current sour is kind of a kooky one. This heat wave, it's kind of pissing me off.
Dude, it's pissing me off.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to sweat immediately when I leave the house. That's not my forte. Also, like what's the summer gonna bring? I mean, it's a good problem to have. Like thank God we're not in snow, but grass is always greener.
Absolutely. And for those listening, we are in Los Angeles. Gabby is more inland than I am, but if it's hot by the beach, I know it is hot for her. And we
It is
have both
hot.
of our AC units on because the lie they tell you in Los Angeles is you don't need AC by the beach. That's a lie. So, with that, Gabby, thank you so much for being the first guest on the original Yappy Hour. I love you to death, and I am so excited to see the brands that you continue to build and continue to develop Southsides alongside your gorgeous brain. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I love you.